Recorded June 2nd, 2025. Broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, and Middletown, Ohio at a gazillion billion megawatts. Welcome to the Insight Show. I am Edward, your host. Joining me is Rodney and Ray. Ray, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. My allergies have been successful. Knock on wood. There's no wood. They're being managed by a plethora of medications. So for now, I can see and breathe and function cognitively clearly for the most part, as good as you're going to get it. So hurrah! I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you.
But are they those medications that have the fine print down at the bottom where you're probably going to have to go to the restroom quite often?
What is going on? Is this a reference to your wordplay? I don't want to hear that.
No, you know all those drugs they talk about on TV, and then there's like all the nasty side effects. Yeah, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I want to take that thing. Anyway.
I feel like my personality is just an accumulation of nasty side effects, but just by default. So you can't get worse, if you're just, so I feel like, well, let's see. We can only go up from here. So who knows?
I'm taking Ray Venta.
Yeah, things can only get better.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to sit back, and the best part about watching TV was all the drug companies really fast ad speak at the end, as well as the fine print that you have to, stop the show, magnify it times 1,000 to be able to read it. Side effects may include death, wishing you were dead, coming back when you were dead. I mean, I'm not taking this stuff. Just let me have rickets. I'll just take my rickets.
When I was married, and I'm officially divorced. That was another recent development. But when I was married, there was a drug that came on the air, like an advertisement for it. It was called Latuda. And I'm Latina by heritage. And my ex-husband would see that commercial and be like, is it for Latinas with attitude? He was not Latino. So, but it was called Latuda. And he was like, I think you need a lot of this Latuda situation. So, he's a very successful consultant. They're always got the gears turning. So
I'm super impressed with how they come up with these names. I think if I were to die and come back as anything, it would be the person that writes those the creative person that creates those drug names. Because I'm like, oh my goodness, how do they come up with these names? Most of them they're not even applicable to the drug itself. But
you it's simple, man. You take drugs to come up with other drugs names. But that being said,
yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
So it's Monday. I absolutely did nothing over the weekend. That's not true.
You missed the segue though. Speaking of names, and then you could do you could catch up on what we did over, but you could do the big news, the news, because it was a beautiful, flawless segue with the names.
Yeah, I guess I could show that. I don't know. Edward, did you see this today? I don't know if you saw it. I know you were super busy. Let's see where
you stared at me today. You I am me and say, dude, are you okay? I'm like, am I okay? Am I okay?
I hadn't heard. Well, I wasn't, for reasons, wasn't on the show last Thursday with our special episode with Performanta.
Performanta, yes.
Did I get it right? Okay.
Yes, yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah, but I've missed you, Edward. We haven't. Just like two ships that pass in the night. This is something that happened. Speaking of names, this is not a drug, or it could be, I guess. There is some creativity that goes into here, but we actually announced today at Microsoft a collaboration with, of all people, CrowdStrike. There's been some confusion over time, I guess, right? Trying to put some kind of marketing flair into these threat actors and the names. Was it about a year ago or something like that? We changed our taxonomies, and that kind of confused customers because everybody sort of has their own taxonomy and everybody names it something different. So we've decided to work with CrowdStrike to start, but I also noticed this further down in this article, and I'll put this in the show notes so everybody knows. We're also Google and Palo Alto Networks will also be contributing to this effort in the near future. So we're all going to maybe not necessarily standardize on names to start with, but hopefully we'll get there eventually. But by working together, hopefully we can do that. The one thing that I actually really appreciated about this, if you click on in this article, it takes you to another page where it talks about the threat actors and the names and the cool graphics. But then if you go all the way down to the bottom, there's a KQL query that you can pop into Defender XDR or Microsoft Sentinel that will give you information about all of those different threat actor names, the old name, the new industry name, and all this stuff. So you don't have to jump back to the page and look for it all the time. You can use a KQL query to figure it out.
I saw the announcement. I didn't click on it. I TLDR, right? I'm not gonna be a poo-poo guy this Monday. Great. Yeah, great. So CrowdStrike and Microsoft are getting together to say that they both agree on using the same recipe to make hamburgers. Whatever it may be, right? It's a thing. I think enough people have said, hey, let's have a uniform method of identifying these people, so that same thing is in this product is in the next product, and you don't have to do cross-reference. Yeah, we all decided to call the bad guys the same name instead of saying you. We'll call you. Whatever. What I did find that's annoying is that one of the more useful things in it, which is sort of related to this, is that if you go into the Defender portal and you go look at threat analytics, and I like the analyst write-up, there is no way to get that write-up out of Defender. That API is not exposed. I don't want to scrape the page, because what I wanted to do is take that threat actor's, you know what? I don't want to scrape the page to get the information and throw it into a PDF and then convert it to, a JSON-L. I could scrape it, go right to Azure AI Foundry and start to write a language model inside of that, so that I can look at activities of this actor versus certain detections and IOCs, right? So I can I can look and say, hey, if I'm using something other than, I can use anybody's model now. Well, I could, theoretically I could. So I want to sort of do it like in a sense of a threat hunter or an incident responder or an incident investigator in II. So it's sort of similar to what I was doing with the SANS. What that course that I took, the 508, the Forensics 508, right?
Yeah.
But I want to be able to sit here and create my own investigation agent of a sort. Because when you start looking at all these agents that are coming, right? I just want to start doing it myself. I got pieces of it working, but I cannot get that page to. I like to just suck it, just pull all the information out, but I can't. So, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm bored project, and my attention span is.
Well, yeah. Sometimes those turn into the best things, though.
Yeah, I talked to Frank about it, so he's going to look at a couple things. But I looked around, I asked Egan about it and a couple other people. But if I can figure it out, it'd be something to blog on. Maybe you and I make it part of a hackathon or something. We'll get it almost ready.
Yeah.
But don't finish it. So when the hackathon come around, we can put a little effort in, and then we can finish it, throw it in there, and win the prize. Speaking of that, before we can get to our guests, the KQL detective contest is coming up. Are we registered? Because I want that 10,000.
We are, as a team. We are registered. Yeah. Okay. No, I have nothing else to share. I thought I did, but I do, but it'll be later. Not this episode. Later. Okay.
Now I don't know if I shared this, but it's general availability, so I can talk about it. Is that the Microsoft Entra team, with various people that they've collaborated with, have announced the general availability of this, and now that I think about it, I think I did talk about it on the last show, but it's worth looking at it again because I've been writing some KQL queries around it. Pardon the long post, but you'll see that from the Entra team, they announced the general availability of linkable token identifiers, because the thing that kills you is being able to try to link artifacts and entities based on logins across different platforms and hoping you write the right investigation query, threat hunting query, and or have some tool mechanism. Now you can see this, and you can see that SharePoint is going to be part of that information purview of a sort of landscape in June 2025. And so what it does is I'll give some, we'll put it in show notes. Standardized linkability, all Entra tokens and workload, issue artifacts, exchange online, Microsoft Graph, SharePoint team, blah, 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 blah. MSA coverage, link identifiables for MSA accounts. That's the thing. I can pivot from an MSA account, Outlook.com, Gmail, whatever it may be, and then see if I can do some lateral identity movement to get to your corporate account. So being able to match those together, right? And then advanced detections, we can do that now, looking at forged tokens. ATIM does that, I think. And intrusion graphing. Now, I need to go see that. I haven't beat up on that yet to understand with that, but we'll put it in show notes. The big shout is that Microsoft says that Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, was one of the big testing entities out there, and they really pushed this right here. So I'm glad to see that. And that's all. They give a bunch of thanks out to all the engineering team. Some of the people in there I know. Some of them I know you know. Ray, one of these folks used to be on your team or something or another. The Microsoft internal detection team. I can't put their names out there. They might compromise their identities, but really good. That's all I did.
Speaking of identities,
I broke some Cribble stuff so I can get ready. So Noodle and I can work on this Cribble thing coming up here. And that's all for me, man.
All right. Well, we do have a guest tonight. I think, I don't know, these two people may be the last two people from BlueVoyant that we've never had on the show. I don't know.
It's like we've had everybody on the show from BlueVoyant, right?
Well, it seems like.
We have.
Oh my God, yeah.
One BlueVoyant proper and one who does their job so immaculately well that often the lines are blurred, right? And without further ado, Michael and Micah, would you care to introduce yourselves?
You go first, Michael.
Thank you. Michael Brown, I'm a PDM at Microsoft. I've been around for about 3 years in the company, and I manage BlueVoyant in FY25. Nice to meet you all.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to happen from time to time, doesn't it, Michael? But
always.
Yeah. My name is Micah Heaton. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. You've all done an incredible job over the years. I support the Microsoft Alliance at BlueVoyant, and some of the other guests that you've had have been dear friends of mine over the years. So grateful to be here.
Yeah, I've been on emails with both of you on some projects. Well, can't disclose the names on the innocent. Michael, I started my career at Microsoft on your side. I started when it was called the PDU, OCP, and now it's DPS now. So I would have been your architect of a sort, a PSA doing that. So you got a good draw with BlueVoyant. When I started, I don't think we had security partners. That's what my group was. We were building up security practices based on EMS at the time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, EMS plus something else. So good stuff. And because you and I have been on several calls together, I tend to stay quiet and let the smart people talk. Just listen.
Yeah, me too, man.
that's why nobody ever's talking on the phone.
Yeah, first off, we tend to feel the same way about Michael. We feel like we had an excellent draw. And in fact, my motivation for reaching out about him in particular was just because I had seen during your partner series the cyclotron airing, and I just thought it would be really neat to bring Michael Brown into the fold because he is, in fact, the PDM for both the Compliance Worldwide Partner of the Year as well as Security. So I just want to make sure he got his flowers on that. That's a big deal.
Here
we go. Yes, I love it. There we go. Starting out strong. And actually, Edward, I made my start at Microsoft, in fact. I worked out of the Issaquah office, if you're familiar with the different campuses out here in the Seattle area.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Okay, very cool. So that would explain the deep insights about how this crazy machine that is Microsoft works. While you were now that explains.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were able to talk the language. I'm like, wait a minute, how do you know this?
Yeah, 100%. They closed down that office in full transparency. The team that was there moved to Las Colinas, and that's how I ended up in the partner side of things, because I was not going to move, and so I ended up just working for a value-added reseller, and then BlueVoyant, and it's all worked out, man. It's been pretty cool ride.
Yeah. You could have ended up places much worse than BV.
Yeah.
Once again,
how long have you been at BlueVoyant?
5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
5 years.
Misa award winner. What was the exact title?
Oh, we forget, Ray. We forget.
Oh, we Micah, but that's okay. We want to be humble. That's fine.
I'll get wide in my stance. I was voted in as the MISA 2025 Security Changemaker for the Microsoft Red Carpet Excellence Award. So that was really neat.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Awards are battling around here. I gotta go get me some awards.
Yeah, for sure. My heart was pounding. It really was
had
neat.
Stiff competition too. There were like heavy hitters.
For sure.
Yeah.
Folks who've been on the show, in fact. Yeah, you've had there's crazy lineup of finalists.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the power of PayPal, man, and cash out, you can do wonders with it, right? To get you over the top.
Yes.
Checks in the mail. Checks in your inbox and whatever they do it. And so Stephen Ross, you say, I am now working as a Syndion at an Azure solution architect. Oh, okay. Very cool, Stephen. I ain't heard from Stephen in a while. Been good. So we got you on the show. We know who Michael is.
Yeah.
Who you are. Why are you guys here today? I mean, I'm sure something at 5 o'clock is beer time somewhere, happy hour somewhere, or unhappy hour seems to be these days.
I'm actually on the road, so I'm thrilled about the opportunity to hang out with y'all. I actually had a day off, so this is a perfect way to spend some time when I'm not, getting messages or getting distractions. This is a great place to be. But if in full transparency, the message that I sent Rod was actually, I looked at the last 10 episodes that you had, and it is. It would make sense that so many folks want to talk about their agents and talk about Security Copilot and talk about AI. But I actually asked Rod if we could ask him questions about his fiction that he's been writing. I was really curious.
It's not about me. It's never about me.
It's always about Rod in some way. That said, if you want an interesting conversation, we should focus our attention there. That said, the point about being kind of a Microsoft whisperer, I feel like is so relevant to you, Micah. And then Michael obviously champions that within the walls of Microsoft. Can you share a little bit about the massive success that BlueVoyant has had for like a smaller company, right? And just
Sure.
One of the number one premier partners in the MISA ecosystem, right? And so how do you navigate that sometimes adventurous landscape?
Yeah, that's the question for me, right?
Yes, yeah, for you, Micah.
Yeah. Well, that's very kind, Ray. Thank you. Honestly, my mantra, my MO is just to be kind, to be nice. I think that is really number one, because you are right. We are a smaller organization. And when I joined BlueVoyant, there were probably about 100 or so folks, and they weren't exclusively really focused on the Microsoft business. Historically, folks may not know this because BlueVoyant is such a strong advocate and evangelist for Microsoft, who have been historically solutions agnostic. So it benefits me that I had a little bit of experience working as a contractor on the support side at Microsoft. I also happen to live, near HQ, and that made it possible for me to kind of help navigate on behalf of the Manhattan folks where BlueVoyant is HQ'd. But as we were just kind of doing the intros, Ed received a message from like an architect that had been kind of moving it throughout like the partner community. And I think that's really just what it's all about, is we've got folks that we work with on the Microsoft side who are former partner ecosystem and vice versa. And it really is just about the humans. It's about staying in touch as people and making sure that the folks that you're working with, you understand what their personal goals are, what their objectives are, what they're trying to accomplish. And I think that matters more than anything. And I'll put a bow on that answer before flipping it to Michael to maybe chat about that. I don't know if y'all are tracking this, but there's like an Experts Live conference that happens in Europe in a bunch of different countries, and they're bringing the Experts Live show to New York. And I put in a call for there's like a call for speakers. I put in a personal nomination. And one of the things that I just said is like cybersecurity is kind of what brings us all together. But for me, it's really about trying to take care of my family. And that motivates me on the human level to do the same for others. Like I know it's people who are just trying to take care of their families, support each other, regardless of whether they're at Microsoft or a partner place. And I kind of want to focus on that and what it means to actually be in a community of humans that are pretty tight knit at the end of the day. No matter where you go, like it is really interesting when I tune into the show and I see someone, I'm like, oh, I know Nathan or I know Femke who have been recently on the show. And I was like, really, it's the people that bring it together. So hopefully that's not too long-winded, Ray.
Well, it's all to insinuate that answer. It's people always have the cliche 6 degrees of separation. When you are in the cybersecurity arena, regardless of who you work for, and you've done this long enough, you probably in a 2 degree or 3 degree separation, right? That whole Defender Experts thing, the Microsoft, the Security Insights show is deeply ingrained into what they're doing. Big shout out to Morton and the rest of the folks in Denmark.
Yeah.
Experts Live, not.
It's okay. We like Defender Experts too. Let's get to that next. Yeah, we'll go right there very next.
We're Defenders Experts Live, but shout out to those guys. And Rod has spoken me twice. I think I missed 1 year. I couldn't break loose to get there. But spoiler alert: when the one in New York happens, the Security Insights show will be there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be on the floor.
We're trying to convince Brody, but Brody is a little sensitive right now. We're doing our best.
We're going to create like a little animal, call it, like Brody, the comedic insult golfer or something. You don't know security. Oh my God, just do things, have little spot quizzes, but I think I didn't overspeak there, Rod. We're sort of going to be there, right?
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. In fact, Morton is at Experts Live in the Netherlands this week.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be there, but I have a class reunion this week instead. So I opted for that. Can't.
Yeah, I was going to try to buzz over there too, but we'll definitely we'll be in New York. I finally get to meet Ray. I heard she's like 6'5" or something. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
She's taller than Brody.
And rollerblades most of the time.
Oh,
disco.
So
and Edward Michael Brown's also in New York. Yep. So we're gonna.
I'll be there too. Yep.
I thought you were in Florida, Michael.
No, I'm based just outside the city. Yeah.
Before we move on to the next question, one of my good friends, the PDM, Meredith Johnson.
I do. She's in my team. Yep.
Oh yeah. Go back. She knows all my dirty tricks.
I'm gonna ask her now.
Please do. She's like, do not hang with that dude. No, Mary's not really, really tight. I saw her a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
So, what is it like?
Oh man!
Oh, look at that!
Look at that!
Wow!
Look at that!
There we go.
So for our listeners, we actually have pictures of Micah at the Excellent Awards this year at the MISA. Well, that's at RSA, right?
Yes,
it is. Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. How come you didn't get a costume?
He's in costume.
Well, yes, actually.
Unveiled.
Kind of worms now.
Bring that picture back up, Rod, so we can.
All right.
So I am in costume, actually. So their whole theme was the superhero outfit. Actually, I was just dressed as Steven Seagal. You can't see it, like the no collar thing that's going on.
You're still under siege the whole time.
I see the colorful shoes. Like, okay, he's rocking shoes. He got it. But the funny thing is, I'm looking at Vasu, who's dressed up as super somebody, and big shout out Vasu, come back on the show, and Maria Thompson, and with the hair that I always love. She's been on the show also, so that's great.
Yeah, both amazing. What's wild about that? I like every year they do such an amazing job with it, but it's different. It's a different theme, and Maria just does an incredible job. It is the costume outfit changes that she pulls off that are really really wild. And her former career, she didn't mention this on the show, she's professional dancer in a former life. So like, she's just on it. She's very good at running those things. And it ends up just kind of being like the Super Bowl of the Microsoft security year. It's got to be my favorite Microsoft security annual event for sure.
And we got to figure out how to get into that.
Paula Abdul of security.
Paula Abdul security.
Yes.
Find some budget, find some time that we can crash these parties, right?
You are right though. Like, shout out Vasu, because I did afterwards find her on the floor like later on in the week. She doesn't have to do that, right? As like a CVP. So the way that she participates and inspires everyone else to get into the mix and get into the spirit of it is really neat. Grateful for her. And
she loves karaoke. So we'll do karaoke. Get a mic. She'll spit some rhymes.
Did you end up going to the Misa karaoke party? We had a conflict, but there was like a thing.
I did not get to attend. People were trying to get me to go, and I was like, no, because there are so many other events, right? And I was trying to attend, but no. So we don't, because I know me, and if I get a microphone in my hand, it's going to be karaoke all night long. We don't need that footage. So I feel like it was in everybody's best interest, and then my digital footprint to not have libations plus the musical accompaniment. It's a whole crisis. So, shout out to me.
Shout out to you. So let's do a little bit of base selling here. I think any listener that's long term of this show. And speaking of which, time, I don't know if time flies, runs really fast, can teleport, but it really goes by quickly. We're almost 5 years, right, Rod, in the show?
Yeah,
over 5 years. Yeah,
5 years. Like, golly, this is something that Frank and I thought about. Would have been 6 years had I just pulled the trigger, because Frank kept trying to convince me for a year. I'm like, oh man, everybody's doing podcasts. I'm doing this. But 5 years, still having fun. Still got a great audience that's growing. We're changing. Based on what the people want to hear. I'm excited about July that's coming up. Big shout out. I'll let Rod sort of throw that out before we close the show out. But let's level set. So we're throwing around a bunch of acronyms here, PDMs, this, that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Michael, how about you tell everybody exactly what you do, and your superpower, because you have two very good Microsoft security partners in your portfolio. BlueVoyant is a heavyweight, and Cyclotron's getting their weight up. Abar's out there, he's doing good stuff over there. I got a couple of buddies over there. So how about you give an introduction so people understand who you are and what is a PDM?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So PDM is a partner development manager, and our role at Microsoft is to be the face of Microsoft to the partners, basically. We are responsible for handling all revenue, handling the scorecard. So we have to make sure that the partners land all the revenue that we need them to land as an organization. We will handle any escalations that would occur, so both internal and external, so customer escalations, internal escalations. And we basically we run interference between Microsoft and the partner ecosystem. So we are basically like the quarterbacks of the partner ecosystem for Microsoft and the partners. So that's how we work. You mentioned a very good colleague of mine, Meredith Johnson. So I'm on a team of 8 PDMs, and what we do as a team is we focus on the enterprise side of our business. So the partners that we manage typically have 80% or more of their revenue coming from the OUs, and kind of that's how it operates. And most of the PDMs in my team have between 4 and 5 partners. I have 5 as well, and as you mentioned, I have BlueVoyant and Cyclotron. I've had Epic, Lighthouse, and Sideris, also compliance and security heavyweight as well.
Mm-hmm. I know Lighthouse well.
Yeah.
Yep. Those guys. And so it seems like that has become a thing in the last 4 years, because it was novel to find a partner who wanted to focus on that. And if you go back and look at some of the artifacts, you'll probably hear some terms like the trifecta program that my team put together back then. Myself and Andrea Fisher, we ran it used to be called Fish Hunter, but we ended up running it called MATA, and we did that for some partners. And I remember, IV4 was one of my good ones. Patriot and those guys, we start bringing up, so those guys, Catapult, all these guys have come up now, right? They've gone different paths, but they're still into the security. But that was a one-off to find a partner to do that, because selling E5 was the thing, modern work. Security just happens to be always attached to the E5 stuff, but nobody's deploying, MCAS, nobody's deploying, ATA at the name. We know it's MDI now. And so now there just seems to be that you can be a partner and be a security-minded partner and not have to rely on collaboration to be able to do it. So that's really cool to see that it's really taking off. I don't think there are no more CSAs over there. I think everybody's PSAs now, partner solution architects. I'm not sure.
It depends if you're on the partner side or the customer side. Yeah. So you PSA on the partner side, CSA on the customer side.
Okay. Yeah. So, God, you say that you are a Microsoft Alliance something or another. What does that really mean?
Yeah, this would be for me, right, Edward?
Yeah.
Yep. So when I started this, can I give you a little backstory?
Yeah.
We go for like, what's the origin story of the Steven Seagal lookalike?
Mm-hmm.
When I started at the beginning, when I started at BlueVoyant, I noticed that Misa had added BlueVoyant as the first MSSP in their portfolio of companies. Originally, Misa was an ISV consortium, and BlueVoyant was MSSP number one. And I, at the time, had been really trying to help my current company see the value of what was at the time disparate, like ATP tools, right? The Advanced Threat Protection Stack and Azure Sentinel, now Microsoft Sentinel. And I just couldn't land the message, man. So I went on a tour in the press to figure out like where maybe a good kind of meeting of minds would be. And I found BlueVoyant and we had a good conversation about it. And they were like, we're really invested in cracking this code. So if you don't know, Edward, BlueVoyant is figureheaded by a bunch of director level and above former FBI, NSA, CIA folks. BlueVoyant CEO is the former COO of Morgan Stanley. So these are folks with very storied careers in security that all together kind of simultaneously saw the writing on the wall that Microsoft was on a winning trajectory. It was before all the, upper right quadrant, but they saw it. They saw the magic. And we had a good conversation about it. Like we gotta figure this out and take advantage of kind of the groundswell and the mind share. And so the reason I tell you that backdrop is because I joined BlueVoyant before we had done a single Microsoft deployment of any kind. And now we've deployed Sentinel over 1,200 plus times around the world, and have really endeavored to be one of the foremost deployers of complex XDR technology. But because of where I started in the organization, my role was just to help these people with master's degrees in cybersecurity understand the difference between like, what's an Office 365 license and what's an M365 license. They're like, this is voodoo. They're like, we know a guy. You're going to be the guy to come explain this. And I like, thank goodness that, I joined at the time, because now there's hundreds of extremely well-credentialed Microsoft security folks at BlueVoyant. And so for me, it was just right time, right place. But Edward, long story short, that means I'm a glue guy in the business. I work with the product marketing team, the marketing team, the deployment services team. And I report into the Microsoft Alliance team, because that is my number one responsibility, is to ensure that as Microsoft has emerging technology that's potentially transformative, we build and deploy against that standard and the ethic of care that we give to our customers. What we promise to do with the new technology, for instance, Security Copilot, is what we're actually capable of doing, and that it's differentiated. What Microsoft builds in a box is amazing. What's the programmatic mastery that BlueVoyant can do on top of it? So the thing I do day to day now more than anything is I've developed a number of different modular experiences to help folks who are investigating the XDR tools understand how well deployed they are in their environment and what we can do to take them the rest of the way towards a best practice standard. So these are like automated assessments that I haven't shared with you, Edward, but probably should have, honestly. that you can run in a tenant if you're somewhere on your Microsoft journey, see how well deployed you are, and see where maybe there's some places deserving of some attention. If I'm a technical executive sponsor, I don't maybe even have permission to see like Secure Score, for instance. I'm the CISO. I'm relying on my team to show me, reports or executive summaries or whatnot. I've created some tools that allow the downstream technical lieutenants to bundle all this information up in a really nice, elegant package to present to their leadership teams and show them like, this is the value that the Microsoft tools are providing for us, and we're on the right path.
Yeah, I think you may have presented that, and I saw it when you presented to our team before, all the rest of the GDBs over there. So
Yep.
Probably saw it and popped in and didn't realize the title, but that's what you showed. There's a career, or a role for any serious Microsoft security partner for a role just like yours, because being able to convey that, you're starting to see this more. And I said it on the last show, you're starting to see not only, you always used to see, return on investment, right? Which I always thought was dubious at best, right? Return on investment, right? So first of all, you have to understand the investment to get a total, hands around that investment in buying the thing, investment in the people that run the thing, and all these others. But now you're starting to see, companies and now partners look at TCO, especially around co-pilots, right? What's the total cost of ownership of this thing? Now, not the collaboration or just the consume piece of it, like, 365 Copilot or some of the other, regenerative AI models. But if you look at Security Copilot by itself, what is the investment of this? Because some of the marketing, some of the talk has been, oh, this is a junior analyst, and this can reduce this amount of time. But how much is it going to cost me? And so now I probably need to have maybe one of my little things like Rod does is edibles to talk about how do you really measure that? Because if you're going to compare this to a biological entity doing this work, you have to compare things like, well, it's here, it has time off, it has healthcare, it has all these benefits. So how do you measure this over here to this thing that said it can do all this, right? And Bean County is going to go, oh yeah, we don't have to pay sick time, this and that, and always. No, it doesn't work that way, people. You have to really look at that. So I'm starting to see more alliance roles across all the partners now who are serious. Everyone has an alliance person. SRA has one, Cybertron has one, Performamenta has one. You have to have that now because Security Copilot has made it difficult for partners. Just putting it out there to show that TCO because of the model it runs. You're charging the customer to do work. You're not charging the customer. The customer has to pay for you to be in the environment because they're on the hook for the SEUs. This was a challenge in Sentinel because you didn't hold the data in your repository. You were ingesting at the customer's place and they're getting a bill. I'm like, do I really need these logs? Shout out to BlueVoyant, no smoke. You guys do some of the best log rationalization exercises.
Thank you.
Very, very good. I've stolen some of that stuff.
I love it, man. That's so kind. Our entire deployment services organization is actually I shouldn't say entire, we're globally distributed. But there's a deployment services summit that's happening right now in New Orleans. Really? And they're going to love that you said that, man. They'd be so grateful to hear that shout out. They're the real trailblazers, and they're very quiet defenders. And it's one of my personal missions to just make sure that they get as much love and recognition as they can. So that's pretty cool, Edward.
And being able to talk to you about this because BlueVoyant is a design partner of Microsoft, common knowledge. So sometimes you get to see stuff nobody else is going to see. Don't hate, rest of the partners get better. It's just how it is, So there's some exciting stuff coming down. We can't obviously talk about it, but I'm sure you guys are excited about what you have access to. And obviously, Michael's going to be your PDM. He'll do it too. So Good stuff, man. You can't speak for all the partners, but let me ask you this. Because everybody's competition, we get it. If Microsoft can work with CrowdStrike to come up with funny nicknames, then I'm sure that the rest of the partners can get out there and you guys talk. If you go to Inspire, man, I really wish Inspire was in person again. Inspire's partner, right? Yeah. What's a general consensus of that you hear of being a Microsoft partner? Is there a general sense of this has value? Because I've been away from that a little bit, but what's the general consensus? Just your opinion, not speaking on BlueVoyant. Like when you go out, is there pride to saying, "Hey, we are a Microsoft partner"? On top of that, we're missing. Is there still pride in being a Microsoft partner?
This is a question for me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So Microsoft is extremely generous in their approach to partners, which is quite novel, to be honest. Like I said, BlueVoyant historically has been solutions agnostic, partner agnostic in the technology alliances. The reason we continue to row together so strongly with Microsoft is that feedback loop is real. And we take it pretty seriously. And also Microsoft just knows how to have fun with their partners as well. Right. So there is an element of like serious development. We got to solve problems. We got to put out fires. We firefight quite a bit. We do. But Microsoft is very generous in the time that they dedicate to partners in the form of PDMs like Michael Brown. Like just think about that, like in and of itself, like having an organization that is dedicated to supporting the development, the growth, the maturation of your partners. And then to your point earlier, sort of as they hit milestones and thresholds and they start to bring that maturation back to Microsoft in the form of success, additional revenues, product leadership, thought leadership, kind of PR integration, the marketing engine, you start to be able to measure and see the value. So personally, I think there is some pride there for sure. We care quite a bit about the accolades that we have picked up over the years. But I think, Edward, we care about those because we know what went into that. And we know that, we can do hard things. I've said this to Ray before, like we can do hard things. We can do hard things. And I mean that. And it's really just, it wouldn't be possible without the recognition and the support that Microsoft gives to its partners. So there is no one else, as far as I'm aware, like that. I do have a little bit of bias. I try to be careful with that bias, but I do think that Microsoft stands alone in its partner support community for sure. Is that a fair answer, Edward?
It is. And I don't want to accommodate the entire podcast, but I want to give part two of this question to Michael. It is a privilege to be a Microsoft security partner. So when I was doing similar to what you were doing, we had to go recruit. I suspect that that's not the case now. So, Michael, how do you handle the turn-away? How do you handle when partners want to get on your plate? Because I'm sure that digital pool or unmanaged, everybody's trying to get into it. So how do you say, well, you're not there yet? We can't take you on. Because it's good to sit here and say, no, how you handle that now that being a Microsoft partner in security focus is not a joke? Because it was a joke for a minute. Two men walking through a room, one says, hey, man, you heard about security at Microsoft? And the guy's like, man, you're drinking too much. How do you handle that you can turn partners away? Not that you would, but what's that conversation now?
No, that's a great question. So there's a graduation process that occurs, and we have an excellent team of what we call PDMRs, which are PDM recruits. So what they do is they recruit new partners in, and they typically manage at a higher ratio. So when we find partners out in the wild that we think have a high chance of doing a lot of good things with Microsoft, we'll basically pluck them up, we'll put them into a PDMR team, and we put some training wheels on them. So for a year, they'll learn how to become a Microsoft partner. They'll get all the IDs, they need access to the programs. They learn how to speak Microsoft because, as we know, it's a whole new language. It has to be learned even as a Microsoft partner. And then depending on how they do in that first year, they'll then get moved on to one team or another team. They'll either get focused on an SMC-based team or an enterprise-focused team because we are segment-facing at the moment. So we're looking at how much revenue is coming from each segment. And that partner will then get graduated up. If they're focusing on SMC, they'll go to an SMC team. And if they're focusing on enterprise, they'll end up in my team. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. I had something that I had a partner that I'm probably going to reach out and you get some clarity on. They want to become this thing that you're talking about. But if you go look at their website, they're just totally opposite. Yeah. Right? They're a big Splunk partner and they're a big Cisco partner, right? I think that only two people who have sort of endured in a partner model this long are venerable. For a while, Cisco was the partner model. That's how you did it, right? But it was super channel based, right? Sell my box, sell these 29s and whatever 5505s, right? You do it. where we sold EAs and we sold SKUs. So they would still do EAs, I'm sure. Very cool. I did not know about your PDMR.
There's a whole team of them that do that.
We started there as well. Yeah, it's worth pointing out that we started there as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
BlueVoyant's been a managed partner for only 4 years now, I think, Micah.
Yeah.
So that's it. In 4 short years, BlueVoyant's gone from being a non-managed partner to the top security partner we have worldwide.
I think what I heard as part of that discussion was that Micah joined BlueVoyant, and then they had all of this success. So it's all on
magic happened.
I mean, in terms of being an alliance director and being the PDM for, again, one of the most premier partners in the Mesa ecosystem, they have to have tough conversations. And it's not just BlueVoyant focused or Microsoft focused. I've been privy to some of these conversations, and it's always customer focused. And so they have to come to the table and carve out space for innovation and have a very spirited dialogue around how does this work for the customer and how are we building out this program and what are the implications. And it's like they're covering all of the angles up front in these conversations. And then they bring in the supporting forces to operationalize and execute. Like, it is no joke. It is not just like, go to this party and expense it and go do this, podcast or talk show or this collateral. Like they're in the weeds, having very sometimes tense conversations, right? Again, I don't need to speak for you, but
no, I love that. That's good. So let's actually pull that through all the way. Edward earlier dropped Defender Experts, which I love because I did want to add to that. I know you were talking about Experts Live, Edward, but shout out to the Defender Experts team, product group, engineering group, ops folks at Microsoft, Sharon Gia and her team. To Ray's point, sometimes you might expect that it would be impossible to have certain kinds of conversations, like how is Microsoft first-party MDR service and BlueVoyant, one of Microsoft's foremost deployers of Microsoft MDR technology, and we manage it. Like, there's no way that they could have fruitful conversations, but we are, and I think it really just comes down to that sincerity of the customer focus, and that's really what drives it. So sometimes, Edward, to your point about, and I know, all jokes aside, Rod, my personal focus is just like, I talk to these customers, I talk to these prospects, I work with folks who don't have enough time in the week to solve the problems that they need to solve. There's a tremendous amount of pressure. We have the weird paradox of this major cybersecurity talent shortage, and then folks who are tasked and challenged to get support and hires to solve their problems. And so the opportunity for us to have maybe what are difficult conversations, Ray, become pretty simple when you remember that it is about driving customer outcomes. And the honesty and sincerity of that makes it easy. This to be transparent and find our way forward. So I think that was a good call out, Ray, for sure.
Well, the success is there, right? So obviously BlueVoyant is one of the top partners that we have. Plus, you're winning all these awards, but that success is on both sides, right? So it's like we're talking about this partnership. It's a team. It's what does that teamwork look like? How often, Micah, do you interact with Michael, and what does that look like?
Well, I knew right away that, as I was listening to Nathan Berger, who's one of my favorite people, by the way, just amazing technologist.
Who was that person one more time?
Oh, Nathan Berger is one of the guests that you had from Cyclotron. He was a big fan of Rod on the point of KQL and all the enablement material that Rod has released on KQL. And I was like, man, how interesting would it be to have Michael kind of come through and share the perspective of what it looks like to be a bit of we're both a little bit of some figures behind the scenes. And occasionally we have to kind of come forward a little bit, but those behind the scenes conversations are happening daily. Rod, I chat with Michael on a very regular basis. And he's accommodated I try not to do this to him too often, but occasionally at like 10 PM, I'm like, hey man, I need you to get eyes on this. It's unavoidable that you're going to need to look at something before you get an email about it. at 7 a.m. So we're very good friends. And I do need to call out that I manage the pre-sale strategy globally for BlueVoyant as it relates to Microsoft security technology, but I report into our global Microsoft Alliances VP. And I think that he and Michael are on, speed dial.
Yeah.
Right.
I can imagine you have to be tight to understand that. Before we run out of cycles on the show, it would be remiss not to talk about one of the prevailing conversations, because it's still the new shiny, and we're going to talk about Copilot, right?
Yeah.
And BlueVoyant was one of the first ones that was announced that they had an agent. So are you privileged to talk about the agent that BlueVoyant had? Okay.
Yeah,
well, give us the rundown on it, please.
Yeah, so shout out to a developer on our side. His name is Jaime Cole. He lives in Spain. He is essentially for all intents and purposes, our director of AI, Microsoft AI solutions. And I should call out that BlueVoyant is surgically focused on the XDR tools. So we deploy and manage Microsoft Sentinel, Defender for Cloud, the M365 Defenders, some of the Entra Identity Protection Stack. And in that, we have what we would consider a best practice standard. So when we go do work for customers, Edward, we're assessing their environment to see what controls and policies and configurations they actually have in place. And if you pull the Secure Score recommended actions by API, it's something like 400. I think it's just north of 400 now. Customers cannot focus on that. Even if we say, you don't need to do all 400, here's 60 or 70 that we think matter the most. Go focus on these ones. So when they allow us to, we will deploy against our standard, but inevitably there's going to be some configuration drift. There's multiple iterations of IT folks. We've got new hires. We have folks kind of changing roles, responsibilities. And so the agent that BlueVoyant released in the enablement material for this will be in the Copilot Content Hub ASAP. We just finished the recording on it, I think just 2 days ago, Edward. So you'll be able to see that super soon. It is essentially all of the little manual activities that BlueVoyant does in the deployment and managed service on a regular basis to help manage the platform health of Sentinel and the XDR tools. We have been enabling as much as possible the agentic experience. So what it will do is, where our analysts are typically reviewing alerts, health attestation alerts. So for folks who aren't necessarily aware, you can essentially program Sentinel to tell you not just when a log has disappeared on you, hey, where'd this whole fleet of servers go? It's not reporting in a Sentinel. You could tell it to tell you when it's starting to deviate from a normal baseline pattern of behavior. In a rolling 48-hour window, this log source has increased by 30% or decreased by 30%. Those are the kinds of things that we want to help customers keep track of, so we can monitor costs. We can make sure that we're kind of tracking the response opportunity. And so the agent is doing a lot of that kind of activity. And the reason why we're moving beyond just a library of prompt books and into that agentic experience is because BlueVoyant has a number of logic app automations that are continuously running behind the scenes and spitting out JSON that the agent then goes and reads and interprets. And it's oh, wait, out of the 70 or so things we deployed, you made an adjustment to this attack surface reduction rule. We want to bring it up during our monthly business review. Or if it's severe enough, just ask about it. Was that intentional? We want to document the change. We want to explain and rationalize, potentially what the justification is for moving away from the standard. And that level of that level of analysis, summary analysis that can be produced on an ongoing basis, not just when you want to run the prompt book, but cyclically reviewing, is really powerful. I'll kind of crack a joke here, Edward. Microsoft's PM, product marketing organization, is very sensitive to using words like thinking or autonomous. They don't there's some guardrails, legal guardrails around how you can talk about the agents, and the way that Microsoft legal has said maybe let's not use this kind of language. We're very careful in our descriptions of it, but I just want to say, as a fanboy, we're getting a little bit closer to that kind of spidey senses tingling. And I'm sometimes very surprised now, after 2 years, where Copilot has come from and where it's at currently. I'm just man, we're in a really special place. And I know that we're not supposed to say like these agents are autonomous thinking. It's a one-to-one with your, biological entity, as you were saying, Edward, but we're in a pretty neat place, man. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't say that the agent is self-aware and sentient and has feelings, those type of things. Not would we? I am very acutely aware of using certain words, phrases, and titles. And the elephant's all in the room. I tend to get in trouble. With that being said, I'm trying to deconstruct it and get away from the commercial part of it. By my role is I'm still a sales role that has to be very technical. But when I'm going back and I'm really, looking at some of the repositories and some of the security copilot MVPs, some of the partners development that have shared what is not IP, and I'm wrapping my head around a little bit, and maybe because I know all the underlying tech, I'm like, so they just encapsulating KQL inside this YAML, and I'm making a play in. So I'm looking at it. To me, it gives tremendous amount of possibility in this. You know what the secret sauce is made of, right?
Yep.
Is that, can you execute? Like when you're good enough, I could give you my offensive playbook. You still cannot stop me. What are you going to do? And that's what it seems like the merging partners that are going to come out have to have open disclosure about, hey, man, this technology is really available. This is why you want to use us. You can't build the business and be in the business, right? It's just hard. You cannot build the program and be in the program. It will eat you up and going from that. But I'm happy that BlueVoyant is continuing to strive. I would be remiss without saying big shout out to our friend Mona. And she's been an integral part of this show as much as
for sure.
Yeah, she's funny. We laugh. I got to give her a call. I know she's probably mad I ain't called her. But
she's at Experts Live this week, by the way.
Oh, shit. We should have been over there, Rob.
Good shout out, Edward. Mona is beloved, for sure.
Yeah, that's a bud. Rob, you want to just jump on my private jet and fly over real quick? You can come back, We'll do it. As long as we don't fly out of Newark, we'll be fine.
Edward, can we talk about the salesy part of that a little bit?
Oh,
is
yeah.
that okay?
Oh, yeah.
This is the number one conversation that I'm having. Customers and prospects just want to know about, like, what's the future of AI? What do we do with this? And the myth versus reality. It's pretty stark because advanced persistent threats used to be run by nation state actors, and now it is something that like a kid with his allowance from grandma can basically hire adversarial activity and run mission. And there's no rules on the other side of this, right? Like we've all probably, I'm sure, thought about like those intrusive thoughts. The five of us are, man, like what would it look like if I was on the other side of this? If I was one of the bad guys, bad gals. It is without a doubt a Wild West universe right now where the adversarial activity is amplified immeasurably beyond what we're able to do on the good side, from the standpoint of we have ethics, we have morals, we have rules, we have compliance, guardrails, we have regulatory incumbent structures that tell us when we can even start using AI versus not. And so it doesn't matter if like we're beyond kind of like there's always going to be budget and financial cycles. But for me, talking to folks all the time, I want them to know that the underground bazaar, the marketplace of adversarial AI is alive and well, and it is growing as faster than our ability to produce things that behave and follow the rules and do things in the way that we want. And so I just want to shout out to Microsoft in general, the security copilot teams that we've been working with now for 2 years. Microsoft has really done a very good job of helping folks safely adopt into something that is generational, right? Like 90s .com boom type activity is happening right now, or probably even more, to be honest. Michael and I joke about this and sometimes not just joke, but seriously exchange like, wow, we're really in some incredible waters right now that I just want folks to really think about, like how far Copilot's come in 2 years now. Well, I guess now, officially like 14 months of GA, but you know what I mean? it's going to look very different in 9 months and 12 months and 18 months. And it's undeniable that the pace at which innovation is growing on the malicious side of this is inescapable. And so we just have to keep up. Budgets aside, we have to keep up.
We could have a dedicated show about that. We've talked about it at length about, the responsibility of security can't just be the security people, it has to be everybody. But I look at it from a big brain perspective, even though having a small brain, is that you're going to need a tipping point here. You said something, two things. This seems to be the purposes of a new technology wave. And right now, the wave is not there. You see the water drawing back away from the thing, tsunami type, right? And then it's going to come. And when you talk about adversaries, I was talking to a buddy of mine when we just look at, if you get compromised, what happens? You're going to find a point that it's going to become a really dangerous tipping point, whereas victims of compromise are going to not pay. They're not even going to consider it. And when that happens, you'll start finding some bad actors who just go from zero to destruct. I'm not going to resell your data. I'm going to either destroy the data because the data only has value if you believe it has value, because it has no value if I will pay you for it. The data is irrelevant, or if someone else will pay you for it, right? And then the danger part about that, whomever wants to buy that compromised data has now become complicit. So it's that thing. I'm looking at it of a sort is that you're going to start seeing companies have a recovery motion. Data's compromised, we built systems in, consider it a loss, come back and be able to do it. There are so many actors into it that you're starting to see established nation state, established ATPs are complaining about all the kiddies and the new people
for sure.
And screwing it up, right? Because the first time you get one of these kids, or I won't say kids, because it's not necessarily kids, but someone who's new who just say, oh my God, I actually got in, and they don't know how to navigate it. And you go in and this is going to sound sort of counterintuitive and crazy. You're starting to see the bad guys self-police each other.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And they'll rat another ATP out. Right?
Yeah.
Don't do that. You mess with my money. That's how established that business is, right? But if you look at where we are, this AI thing is as big as the last thing I'm old enough to remember the technology wave was because there were so many players. Personal PC stuff. I'm not 80s, 90s. I'm talking about the 2000s. Gateway, Dell, all these folks. And you had Microsoft who was doing Windows 95 and 98 and all this other stuff. So it was a lot of players helping drive the IT. I'm seeing a reduction in players because of capability. And then you saw a huge reduction in players once the data center thing went away, hosted, and then the three major cloud providers took off. Cloud was the last one I really remember. Like AWS, GCP, Azure, some Oracle. That's what you're seeing now. The next thing is even the AI model seems to be very scoped. A lot of people can afford to play. If you're just talking about raw compute and what you need to do it. I was talking to someone here and I didn't realize it. Microsoft is building 4 data centers here in Atlanta. 4 data centers. I thought they had halted the project. And my buddy called me. I said, what's going on, man? I'm at work. What are you doing? I'm down building this data center now. What data center? I thought Microsoft halted that project. Dude, we're building 4 data centers here. Like, what? Like, yeah. So you're starting
Microsoft's
to see
a construction company right now, Edward.
Pretty much.
And they're about to become a power and energy broker or exchange person like the old Enron. You're opening nuclear power plants and you're going to start selling excess power, right?
I thought that headline was, I thought it was fake. I didn't realize that was real. I had to dig into that. That 3 Mile Island, that blew me away, man.
And the other ones are following suit, right? They're following suit, whereas you can do these things. So that's what's going on. This is a new one. It seems to be much fewer major players in the AI thing. It seems like to people who are new to it, there's a lot of players. But back in the day, everybody was in, and everybody had a piece of the pie. You maybe because we don't operate in that arena anymore. I don't remember when networking was the thing. That was it. It was Cisco, Juniper, HP, that was the thing. Ones and zeros over the pipe. And then it was the data
Yeah.
center. This seems to be very specific about who can get in, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah. There are no close competitors to NVIDIA. They lucked into this. Don't let that CEO fool you. Read his history. They backed into this because their whole thing was gamers. And then they go, oh my God, our chips can do fractional computation, AI stuff. So they had a solution, but there was no problem yet. Then the problem came.
Yeah, the crypto application kind of showed them the way for this, right?
Bingo.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what did it, right? Now they're taking off with it. This has been great, man. I know that BlueVoyant is doing great things. I interact with you guys a whole lot. I pull you into my accounts when I can. And, like I said, you and I worked a couple of projects recently, whatever else. And,
Yep.
And you guys are more than welcome to come back on. Michael, I'm going to reach out to you because I have need of your expertise in particular person that needed me to point them somewhere. And I did not know about the R program.
I know just the people to point them at. You're welcome.
I really, really appreciate it. Any closing remarks? You guys have the floor before we end this.
Yeah. How much time do we have? We got 2 minutes, Edward?
We have enough time you need to close out.
Yeah. Can I throw, am I allowed to present something? I want to show something that's in the Microsoft Marketplace.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you. Really appreciate this. I know a lot of times when you have folks come on, they're very smart. They show the things that they're building. They give awesome demos. So I appreciate you letting us kind of do a little bit of a different thing here. We talk about like what it means to be a partner and the value of working together and the challenges that we're facing together and what that means for us. Because I really do believe that, like when we were at that MISA thing and we think about what everybody is facing, all of those organizations together are actually like the impact they're having is when we're in the fight, right? We don't always see that, but together we are stronger, and it is pretty awesome. So thank you for letting us share that message. What I wanted to share, I'll drop a link in the chat. You guys can share this out as needed, but the readiness assessment that BlueVoyant has built, I had a pretty strong hand in this. Edward, is available to anybody to install in their Power BI environment. It just lives in the app source marketplace. It's an application that does require you to, let me see how to do this real quick. We should have asked about this before.
Yeah, we're not a team shop here.
It's okay. Yeah. We'll just share the Chrome's window, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So I put the link into the chat. So ultimately you install an application in Azure. It's an enterprise app registration, and it's there so that it can broker the API call to the Graph API. Mm-hmm. And ultimately what it allows you to do is kind of pull down summary insights that are visually displayed here a little bit different than you see in like security.microsoft.com, for instance. So the first thing that I want to call out is like, if you have an executive, you're really trying to impress upon them, like the work that your team is doing or the work that you would like to do, but can't get to, or you need some help, you need some hires, you need the support of a services partner like BlueVoyant. And this is actually a really helpful way for you to kind of benchmark, like, this is what we've done so far, and these are the things that are deserving of attention. You can see down here, like the visual chart, I think is really helpful. Is that's not the way that it works in the security.microsoft.com portal necessarily. When you go to export this data, it's more rows and columns. So if you're trying to inspire a technical executive sponsor to think along the same lines, like, here's the value of the Microsoft investment that we're making. This is what we're getting out of the Defender tools in particular. It does a really good job of itemizing the alerts against TTPs. So like, Edward, in the security.microsoft.com portal, it's really about the product names, like the detection sources, Defender for Office. A lot of folks who are coming from a non-Microsoft security background all think in terms of TTPs. So if you want to just quickly at a glance show, like this is a demo environment data, by the way. So the high severity alerts that I've been experiencing over the past, year are these 4 TTPs. Now I can start thinking about the mind of an attacker and how I'm going to manage protections against these in particular. So this is no cost. This lives in the AppSource Marketplace. I put the link in the chat. I don't know if you can share it in the post, like notes, Rod and Edward, but A lot of work has gone into this. We also use this as a way to show like the co-pilot readiness, for instance, because we believe that in order to drive operational excellence out of co-pilot, you need those XDR tools minimally deployed in order to produce good outcomes with security co-pilot. So this is our page that essentially makes it really easy for you to see at a glance, like out of those 400 things I should be focusing on, which one should I really do? And we have them weighted and broken down into mandatory and recommended actions. And Edward, we give this away at no cost to the community because we really believe that this is the right way to build relationships. It's the right way to kind of inspire folks to think about change and to make adjustments that matter. So just want folks to know that that's something that we've been working on and make available to everybody.
Yeah, we'll be able to share this in the post show notes. Ron and I produce it, and we'll add the links. If it's not being shared right now, but one thing I would, you and I can talk about this offline and maybe pull Michael into this. I like the dashboard. I look at it and immediately, that's the language that I speak. But to be very transparent and everything, if I'm a CISO and I'm looking at that, the first thing I do is I turn to my right-hand person. What am I seeing? Because I got asked to come talk to a buddy of mine. He's a CISO over there. And he said, hey, man, I need real talk about what's going on. And he said, my line of questioning to you is, I want to show you something. And he asked very pointed questions. Why should I care? What does this mean to me? How much is this going to cost? Who's going to pay for it? Right? Should this come out of my budget, or should this come out of the budget of those of the things that I'm protecting? So the security program office is becoming more business-like. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it anymore. And so we need to have the ability to talk the language of these CISOs. What you will notice, I look at trends around hiring. See, I go to LinkedIn and I go look at what are they hiring for. You're starting to see more deputy CISOs. And if you are a CISO, do not run afoul of your deputy CISO by making him operations. That should be your thought leader. He does not come here to reduce your workload. He comes here to reduce your worry load. And that's what I told the guy I was coming to advise.
I like that.
I'm not going to reduce your workload, sir. I'm here to reduce your worry load. I'm here to tell you this is what you should be concerned about, right? The other things are red herrings and distractions. If you got to ask how much it costs, then you can't afford it. But then can you afford what happens if you don't buy it? So I had a really good two-series situation around that. And big shout out to Liz that came on the show who does all this advisory stuff. I really love what she was doing. I said, can I be that thought leader? I don't want to talk about the product. You don't care about how this thing works. I don't care either. But what does it prevent me from having? What's the old saying? Either you're in the papers or you're reading about it. I'd rather read about you. I don't want to read about me. Right?
That's such a good call out, man. That's super smart. I think I probably should have started with this screen. I think your feedback is awesome, and I would love to have more of it and show you this so that you can kind of coach. We want to be students on this as well. For folks who have E5, A5, G5 licenses, there's certain views in this dashboard that are really for you to show you, like, you bought all these tools. Before you complain about them or you're frustrated with them, let's actually just see how well you're leveraging them, or even if the licenses are assigned. So hopefully we can take some of your feedback and adjust some of these views so that they can just within seconds, we want them to make sense and strike the right chord. So the CISO, the technical executive sponsor, is like, how long have we paid for these licenses? 2-3 years before we run into a de-adoption scenario. We really want folks to get a quick snapshot of whether or not they're under deployed, if there are opportunities to focus on, the productivity and collaboration or Intune or whatever it is, and just see that at a glance.
Yeah, most companies are so, we'll go too long. This is around that security thought leadership, as well as any technology adoption leadership. Microsoft is guilty of it. All the big companies are. We're so ingrained of trying to get to the person at the top of the food chain too quickly. I don't do that. You garner the support of the people that person trusts.
The champions.
And then they will bring it to them, right? They are the translator of your dashboard. And they'll go, because to me, if I was a CISO, I'll go, okay, I see it. We got 79 highs, 54 lows, and 172 mediums. What does high mean?
Right.
What's the medium?
Yeah, fair point.
What's a low? If low is low, why are you even reporting it? right? And so when you look at that, that was the question that I sat down with a peer, and he sits on a fairly prominent company, and he said, "Man, I'm overwhelmed, and I gotta hire some help." And I said, "When you hire this person, don't throw them in operations. You're just duplicating yourself. You're spreading it, and then you took your 100% watermark. You brought somebody in. Now you're at 50, and you're both filling it up. Now you're gonna hire somebody to help him next. He's not here to reduce your workload. He's here to reduce your worry load."
I love that. We might borrow that with proper
yeah.
attribution.
I'm going to borrow that one too.
Hey, about 3 beers in, I came up with it. I seem like a game, So that's the thing. And I mean, Ray, that's something you and I should write about. You and I are trying to come up with topics and all this other stuff. I think we go so much into the technical that there is a business operational aspect of security. We can't be the people that sit on the outside that get blamed or get called in. I don't want to be a brain on a stick. I want to be the guy that comes in that can sit in the room with the CFO and the CIO and all these other folks and the chief marketing officer and the whomever else. That's a whole show that I get so aggravated when the chief information security officer is not part of the executive board and reporting to the CFO. You're talking about conflict of interest. Totally different show. We'll bring you guys on. If you guys want to be part of that panel about what is the important roles of a security executive or professional, we should look at it.
100%.
We got to do that. But this has been excellent. Keep doing the good things that you guys are doing. I'm sure that you and I will be on another project together. We'll be doing some stuff. And Michael, it's a pleasure to meet you formally. I've seen you all around. I don't know if we talk one-on-one, but I'm a buzz you and you'll get tired of me bothering you.
And hopefully we're all together in October in New York. That would be awesome.
Yes, that's going to be awesome.
You're coming through to New York, Micah?
Let's do
but
it.
Yeah, hopefully. I put in a request for, they did a call for speakers, and I put in my write-up. We'll see how it goes.
Well, we know a couple people. Maybe we know some.
Speak a few things.
I know a guy. It's like, okay, you know a guy. All right. So
I love that. And Rod, one of these days I'm gonna get some answers about your fiction, man. I love that. I was serious about that. I did have some questions. I did want to know more. I know we're out of time, but
he's got me buying the books. I'm on there reading them too. I need to get a reviewer's, allotment for some. I haven't bought that one yet, Rod. I saw it come across the Amazon.
Well, he's super prolific on the technical evangelism. So when I discovered this separate kind of thing you had going on, Rod, I was like,
my split personality.
Yeah, it's Rod at midnight. That's
really awesome.
They're not bad. I'm a big sci-fi guy, and I'm very critical. I've read it. I've asked Rod a couple of questions like, "What's this again? What are we doing?" But yeah, we need to do that, Rod. I have a book signing. So what I need to do, Rod, is order the book, have it sent to your house. You sign it, then you send it to me, like the other ones. I'm just send it to you. You sign it, and I'll read it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Go that way. Well, everyone. We have concluded yet another podcast with the outstanding Microsoft Security and MISA member, BlueVoyant, as well as the outstanding Partner Development Manager, Michael Brown, who gives a little bit more insight about what a PDM is. And I've learned that there is a security track or a little program you can get put in. I did not know that. I've been gone too long. Big shout out to my ex-manager at Microsoft, the guy that hired me, Ross McKee. We didn't have time to talk to him.
Shout out, Ross.
Michael, you know Ross?
I'm your hype man on that.
Yeah, Ross. Saw me in the office and didn't speak. I was doing a connect. Man, I didn't connect. Whatever. All right, we will be back. Next
yeah. Well, I won't be here. So for 2 weeks. Well, next week is. So going back to what we were talking about security, I'm delivering a keynote next week in Oslo and then one in Edinburgh the week after about, and this is it's about SFI, our secure feature initiative, but I'm taking a different route. I am security. You're going to hear that quite a bit from here on out. So
I may get permission from the missus just to jump on the plane and run over there.
You should.
We can have Micah be the guest co-host.
Yes. Mike, would you be interested?
I'd be happy to. That's tremendous.
Michael, you also, one of the things you guys in Regis.
Yeah, they come as a duo.
We kind of are. M&M's.
I will get one free.
It's an easy lift. Rob, you're not talking about it. I'm underwater.
Yeah, we're happy and willing. Just either way, Rod, that's super cool, man. Congratulations on all the success you. People appreciate what you do.
Yep. So everyone, we'll be back Monday, bringing more security goodness to the Security Insight Show. Thanks again, once again, to our guests for coming on, taking time out their day. Any questions, hit us up on any one of our media outlets, as well as Discord, which I guess is a media outlet. You have any questions, throw them in there. Big shout out to Nathan Swift, who's the moderator of our Discord, in addition to Noodle running it. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate you.
Thank you, team. Take care.